In a world where the word authenticity is used with such abandon, what a privilege it is to spend time with someone like Todd Duncan, who is genuinely authentic. He has been through personal tragedy, setbacks in business with his family, great loss. And yet what has emerged is a person who truly is a person who feels the sweetness of life. In the book of James, it says, "Count it all joy when you are subject to trials and to tribulations of all kinds." Joy doesn't always mean smiley happiness. It can just mean living to the fullest. And Todd has taught us a great deal about how to do that. Really interesting to hear some of the things that have gone on in his life and how he has worked that. He spoke about how fear can be either disabling or enabling, and the entire key to which it is taking the right perspective, that anybody that tries something that is different or daunting is going to feel that fear, that life itself is going to throw curveballs at people just from out of nowhere. And so the realization that pivoting is an art and a science, that there are certain things that happen in life that we have to simply accept for the moment. In his own case, he was actually robbed by a business partner. He faced death in his family. He faced having to admit one of his children into rehab. So many incredible things. But in fact, he was able to gain the right perspective on all of those things. And that's the interpretation that led to moving forward. I'm always moved when different guests speak about the brick walls. What he said is, well, first of all, you can't retreat, even tiny steps. These are the lessons that come of progress. And first we have to pause and learn a bit of the lesson, then we have to seek wise counsel. And the realization that other people need us. This is one of the great insights that came from Todd. It's so easy when we're faced with a problem to stick our thumb in our mouth and say, poor, pitiful me, hate that this is happening, wish this weren't happening, why couldn't this be happening to someone else? But that quiet voice is saying, no, people need me, is something that Todd reminds himself of, which helps him to keep going. And that little bit of motion is what helps us keep balance. Slow-mo is better than no-mo, just keeping that motion, because that helps us keep the balance in so much. Throughout his life, it was interesting to hear how he spoke about being more concerned with direction than with perfection. You know, I typically ask my guests, well, how do you keep from coasting? How do you keep Mr. Mediocrity off your shoulder? And he'd already answered the question. Be more concerned with direction than perfection, because the bigger the goal, the bigger the obstacles, but the bigger the achievement and the bigger the impact. He's reached 3 million people through his work so far, but he told me when we finished the recording that he's actually upped that goal by a factor of 10 and has 27 million more people to reach. And I believe that he will. That actually helps him take certain pressure off, because he knows that the big goal will itself be empowering and that will involve lots and lots of people. And when we know that people are depending on us, we just somehow come through. He spoke about how setbacks are setups for comebacks, and that everybody loves a comeback story. And sometimes these setbacks that just seem so crippling and paralyzing really don't have to be if we take the lessons at heart and we figure out what they're about, which is so key. He is a clear thinker that life is in fact a response to circumstances, which means choice. Very moving to hear him say that there's really just 2 things at the end of a time period or at the end of a life. One of those things that we are glad we did, and one of the things that we wished we had done. And that when it's too late to impact a relationship or to impact a business is a terrible time to have to say, oh, I wish I had done this. Even though we all have those moments, and that's what we learn from, and that's what helps us do much, much better, which is so key. His process with his wife every day to hold up 3 fingers and just say, okay, real quick, what are 3 things you are thankful for? Keeps him in the right equilibrium and keeps from focusing on the things that are problematic or really difficult. There are acres of influence in the things that Todd Duncan shared with us. Obviously, he's been a listener to mentors and influencers. He's a learner. He's a continuing student of the game of life. And his ability to simply focus and be present with the person that he's talking to really tells you a great deal. I can see why his company is focused on trust. I've not met him in person except just now through the podcast, and I know I already trust Todd Duncan. And the more that we can learn from his tone of voice, we can learn from the really deep thinking that puts things in simple terms, that's really going to help all of us a tremendous amount. I look forward to listening to this one again, because there's so much there, and to digging into Todd's work and continuing to follow him as he makes such a big impact on the world. So thank you for joining us here on the Action Catalyst. We look forward to next time. And above all, let's all put those 3 fingers up and think about the 3 things to be thankful for today.